Subscribe to the Farm Logic channel now, because what you're about to learn is one of the most quietly powerful agricultural techniques ever developed, a method so effective that the soil it created is still fertile thousands of years later. This is not theory, not folklore, and not a modern sustainability trend. It is a fire-based soil transformation used by ancient civilizations to turn exhausted ground into permanently productive land. Long before industrial fertilizers and mechanized tillage, early societies faced a brutal agricultural reality. Soil was easily depleted, rainfall unpredictable, and crop failure catastrophic. Yet certain regions defied this pattern. Archaeologists kept finding pockets of dark, rich earth in landscapes that should have been barren. These soils did not occur naturally. They were made deliberately, patiently, and with fire. You know, it's quite fascinating. Ancient farmers discovered that fire, rather than simply destroying the land, could actually strengthen the soil. Most people, when they think of fire, associate it with loss, erosion, and destruction. But, through careful observation, ancient farmers learned the opposite lesson. They realized that when low, controlled heat was applied to organic material, it didn't remove fertility at all. In fact, it transformed it. Instead of burning plant matter all the way to ash and letting the nutrients wash away, these farmers partially burned it, stopping just short of full combustion. What remained was a carbon-rich material that resisted decay and, quite remarkably, bonded with the soil itself. In the Amazon basin, this practice produced what is now called terra preta, or dark earth. Similar fire-hardened soils appear in ancient African farming zones, pre-Roman Europe and parts of Asia. These soils, you see, retain nutrients, resist erosion, and support microbial life far beyond surrounding ground. The civilizations that created them understood that fire, used correctly, could lock fertility into the land instead of releasing it into the air. How controlled charring created permanent soil structure? The key was incomplete burning. So, farmers would stack crop residues, wood scraps, bones, and even manure, and then smoulder them under limited oxygen. This careful process, you see, produced charred organic material rather than turning everything into ash. When this char was mixed into soil, it really acted like a sponge and a scaffold all at once. It absorbed nutrients, held onto water, and, well, provided surfaces for beneficial microbes to colonize. Unlike fresh organic matter, which, you know, decomposes rather quickly, char remains stable for centuries. In fact, ancient soils built this way still test high in fertility even today. You know, this sense of permanence is exactly what modern agriculture struggles to replicate, especially when relying on seasonal inputs. So, to apply this method nowadays, the process actually begins with selecting clean biomass, like crop stalks, pruned branches, or even dry plant waste. These materials are then burned slowly in a pit or a covered burn pile, where oxygen is kept to a minimum. The fire is, well, extinguished before it turns everything into full ash. After that, the resulting char is crushed and mixed with compost or manure before, being worked into the soil. This actually mirrors ancient practice quite closely and, well, it helps prevent nutrient lockup. So, why did fire-hardened soil support crops in such extreme conditions? Well, let's take a closer look. Ancient fire-enriched soils, interestingly enough, consistently appear in regions with poor native fertility. This was certainly not a coincidence. Char, you see, improves cation exchange capacity, which means the soil can hold on to nutrients rather than simply losing them to rain. It also increases porosity, making it easier for roots to penetrate and for the soil to retain water. On top of that, it buffers acidity and helps stabilize soil temperature. Farmers using these soils reported more consistent yields even during drought years. Crops rooted deeper, matured evenly, and, showed resilience against pests and disease. These effects were cumulative. Each season of careful amendment, it strengthened the soil further. Modern growers can observe similar results. Beds amended with properly prepared char show reduced watering needs and, honestly, improved nutrient efficiency. This is especially valuable in sandy or heavily weathered soils, where, fertility normally just leaches away. How ancient farmers charged fire-hardened material before use. One of the most overlooked aspects of this technique is preparation after burning. Ancient farmers did not add raw char directly to fields. Instead, they mixed it with nutrient-rich materials and allowed it to rest. This step infused the char with life and nutrients, preventing it from drawing fertility away from crops. Ethnographic studies show char mixed with kitchen waste, animal manure, fish remains and compost. This charging period could last weeks or months. Only then was the material spread onto fields. Today, this step remains essential. Char soaked in compost tea or mixed into active compost becomes biologically active. Skipping this step weakens results. Ancient farmers understood this through practice, not chemistry. Why this knowledge was lost and why it matters now. Fire-based soil building faded as populations shifted and industrial inputs replaced long-term land stewardship. Short-term yields became more important than permanent soil health. The result has been erosion, nutrient loss, and, dependency. Recovering this knowledge restores autonomy. Fire-hardened soil reduces fertilizer needs, improves resilience, and, builds fertility that lasts generations. It aligns with survival agriculture, regenerative farming, and, honestly, serious land stewardship. It's remarkable how this ancient technique still, even today, outperforms so many of our modern fixes. Modern soil amendments, they often act quickly, but disappear just as fast. In contrast, fire-hardened soil actually changes the soil itself, fundamentally and for the long term. That, really, is why ancient plots remain fertile for centuries after abandonment. This is not just enhancement. No, it is genuine transformation. So, please subscribe to the Farm Logic channel and share this guide with anyone who cares about real agricultural history and long-term food security. Preserving and applying this knowledge isn't about returning to the past. It's about carrying forward the methods that actually worked and, honestly, still do.